Okay, guys, technology, we're getting there. Woo! Okay, we're recording and we are live and we are here for our fourth installment of the Inspirational Women series. And this has been the most amazing 4 weeks. We have got the most fabulous Style and Success Club that is growing. And we are looking at kind of all different ways of what success means to us as women. Every week, it's a completely different person's perspective. And I've loved seeing everyone's kind of different angle and how we can take the advice now to help us cope with the COVID situation. And what's really, really fascinating about tonight's guest is that Sara has essentially been in this place of isolation for the last 10 months. And we are going to be hearing about what life is like on the top of a mountaintop. But thank you so much for joining. It's just fantastic to have you here.
I feel really honored to be here. It feels like perfect timing just to paint the picture for you all. I'm truly on the top of a mountain. I live in a small village called Hemsedal, which is about 3 hours north of Oslo. And I live in a very small cabin that was built by hand by the father of my brother-in-law. We've got a roaring fireplace on the other side of the room, which is probably giving me some extra light. And yeah, it's very cozy, but I don't have a neighbor for miles. So when I shifted my life here almost a year ago, my world became a bit smaller, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, so tell us, what drew you to a life on a mountaintop?
I think the best way to answer that initially is just to say, you know, one of my personal values my whole life has been curiosity. So living my life with an open mind, an open heart, every massive leap I've taken, and I haven't taken many. I mean, how many can you possibly take in your life, right? But when I think about the big leaps I've taken, one of them being when I moved from my home where I grew up in California to the UK back in 2010 for the opportunity to live and work in London. I grew exponentially. No experience is wasted, even if you get there and it's not what you expect. So the curiosity really pulled me to this adventure. Additionally, I have to mention too the Enneagram. So for those who know the Enneagram, I identify as a 1-wing 2. So in my heart, I'm very structured. I love a good plan. However, I have a spontaneous side. So again, for those of you who know, you're not just in one box. You move based on your energy. And at my best, I go to 7, which is very spontaneous. I embrace a bit more of a relaxed, lifestyle. So I like to think that I made the decision to move to Norway when I was in my 7. And, the last thing I'll mention is, and this is another kind of step in my journey to getting to know myself. I had my birth chart read for the first time 4 years ago, and I discovered that I'm a Gemini rising. There's a lot of duality in people who were born under that rising sign specifically. This could not be more true about me. I really felt seen in that moment. And for me, duality in this situation really means seeing both sides to all situations. The life that I had, the life that was up ahead. And, I felt that, I don't want to use the term grass is always greener, but I was ready to really try something different.
It's interesting, Sara, because obviously we met in London, and that was when you took that first leap. And I remember us having a lot of conversations about the grass being greener, and us really thinking, I have a specific memory actually of us, and just to kind of tell everyone about how we know each other, was that we both work for anthropology. You were a very experienced area manager over in California, and your boyfriend at the time, now husband, was doing a master's at was it Christie's or Sotheby's?
Sotheby's. Yeah.
And in furniture design, wasn't it?
Contemporary design. Yes.
Okay, yeah. And you came over and we ended up working very closely together at Anthropology. And we bonded and we had a lot of fun in London, in Soho, obviously pre-kids, living our best lives in London, partying a lot.
Yep.
It was great fun.
Best days, glory days, I like to say.
We also used to have a lot of amazing conversations about kind of seeking out, well, what else is out there? And I remember us having a conversation walking around Soho talking about the grass being greener. And I think this is a really interesting place to start the conversation, because you are in a place where there is no grass at the moment, and you've had ice and snow for since when?
Going on,
you saw a blade of grass?
Going on 7 months, but who's counting, right?
Okay.
Just starting to see grass.
Yeah. And also you're in a place where, like you say, you're dealing with a lot of isolation. So how did you, when you first arrived, what was the promise? What did you think you were coming to? What did you think, your grass being greener, you were living in New York at the time. Tell us a bit about your life and how it was and what you thought you were kind of coming to in the grass being greener for you in that sense.
The life in New York, it was incredible. I lived there for almost 10 years, but the entire time, it was the epitome of hustle. I had both my kids in New York, very close in age, back to back. Not a lot of time off, after the kids, went right back to work. My husband and I, just to make it and live in where we were living in Brooklyn. You have to put your kids back, in childcare at a young age, 3 months. I envisioned this life almost as if it were the opposite of the hustle. So, to be honest, though, I had no conscious expectations. When I arrived, as I said, I really came with an open mind and an open heart. If I were to declare an expectation, it would probably just be that I had an intention and a wish to slow down and live a more present life, because my life in New York, I would describe as just on autopilot. Very few present moments. I definitely was starting to become more exposed to mindfulness activities and various healers and teachers, but everything felt very effortful in New York. And I really was craving the opposite, which when you picture, life in the mountains of Norway, far away from Oslo, as I said, the nearest, or the biggest, city, that's what you would imagine and dream of.
Yeah. And you've got the opposite. I mean, you couldn't.
Most definitely. Yeah.
So how long does it take you to get to the nearest shop?
So the nearest shop is about 20 minutes away by car. Walking is one of my favorite activities where I live because it's beautiful. I'm surrounded by nature. However, you are not walking to get to a certain place. My life in New York, I would walk and I always had an end point. I was walking to the subway. I was walking to get coffee. I was walking to my favorite restaurant, going out for a date night. I could do anything on foot. And love that feeling of momentum, the moment
and
I
you
left
are
my
speedy
door.
Walker. I mean, for a wee thing, you are a speedy walker.
Always been a fast walker. You know me.
So how have you coped with that change of pace? Because obviously one of the reasons I really wanted to get you on here today is that I felt like, and you'd kind of come into our coffee mornings and you'd been sharing a little bit, and I thought, so much of what you've gone through in the last 10 months of being so isolated and having this shift, and yes, it's been a wonderful, well, it'd be interesting to hear how you feel about being away from New York, but how did you start adjusting to that new life? Because I think all of us right now are adjusting to this new way of being, and we're just like, you want to be going at the same rate. So can you enlighten us?
Yeah, no, it's, I will be honest, it wasn't easy. I think I, as I said, I was really craving this change, but then when I got to that kind of finish line of, okay, the change is here, I've moved, this is where I live now. that's when you start to go through the transition, right? So the transition of that life to this new existence and lifestyle. And it was quite jarring at first. And I actually felt myself going into a bit of withdrawal, not a bit, a lot, and trying to almost match my surroundings. So it's like, okay, if this is where I live and my world is so much smaller, I almost went into control mode of, okay, well, I'm just going to be entirely independent. I started to, the few people that I did come into contact with on a daily basis, I found myself not being as interactive. It was an interesting moment in my personality, to be honest, and my external behavior. And that set a switch off in my brain. Of course, I started to have more and more present moments of present awareness, where I would then go inward and notice these feelings, and feeling like I wasn't myself, and sitting with that discomfort and going inward, and having almost an internal dialogue with myself, related to the transition, and that I needed to figure out how to transition, and be at my best in this new lifestyle that I had chosen, that I had made a free will choice,
And did you sometimes feel quite shocked that you'd made that choice? Like,
I definitely did. Yes.
Yeah. And how did you find the process of kind of, there must have been a new you that you started to get to know?
Absolutely. I would say, also just to give a bit of context, we moved here for an opportunity. So my husband and I moved here to take on a big project. The ambition from New York came with us. So we definitely arrived and had a lot to do. However, in that downtime, as I said, I was left to kind of face, the internal struggle that I was having. And I would say that the first shift I noticed in myself when I was going through this was I started to realize that I was constantly in a place of service. And when I was constantly in a place of service, which then kind of bled into feeling like my whole day was obligation, whether it was my new job, waking up, I have 2 young kids. I realized that I needed to make a pretty large shift into being more self-focused, and infusing at the start of my day a few small things that were meant just for me. So the first thing that I implemented was my morning routine.
You say again,
yeah,
sorry.
which has
Say that again.
So it's so the first ritual that I infused to, again, just get feeling back into my body and feel like I, again, have free will in this life, regardless of maybe a feeling of feeling trapped, where I was, and in the choice that I had made.
A lot of people feel right now.
Right. Yeah, no, I would say it's, you're definitely not alone. I would say it's a part of the human condition. Probably all of us, even before COVID, can think of another time in our life where we felt probably trapped. So here we are again, all going through it together as a collective, which is just incredible and mind blowing. But no, I think, in going inward and realizing that, regardless of my external circumstances, regardless of where I was living, regardless of the feelings I was having about, whoa, what have I got myself into? I started to make choices for myself. And so I started small. So what I was about to share is, I created a morning routine for myself that is so straightforward and so basic. You can do it in 30 minutes. I wake up before anyone else. I drink 20 ounces of water. Mm-hmm. Well, and create your own, mm-hmm. and I would say the key is make it realistic. So 20 ounces of water, followed by my 10-minute meditation, where I really focus in on my breath work. And then my third step, I'm very passionate about aromatherapy. It's made a huge difference in my life for the past 5 years, since actually I became a mother. That was kind of my catalyst into getting into it. I turn on my essential oil diffuser for the day, which gets me 6 full hours of aromatherapy that I'm just ready to go. So coming full circle, I'm hydrated, I've meditated, I've gone inward, I've set an intention for the day, and I'm set up with my aromatherapy. And I have to say that just building that habit into my life has made a massive difference. It's shifted.
Why did it make that difference? Because I think a lot of people, you know, something that's so simple, why did those small changes make the difference?
Well, I think for one, going back to kind of the foundation of why, it was a solution to a problem that I recognized in myself. So the problem was I had gone into a state of feeling like my days were an obligation, as opposed to my days have free will behind them and I can design my own day. So that was really empowering.
So people are feeling, I just want to kind of just put light on this, because I think it's really, really important, especially as women, because I think as women we often feel there's so much obligation to the community. And obviously you came from, you know, a very high powered job in in New York. You were working for Sage, which is well, you described Sage, I don't want to, I feel like I do it injustice.
Yeah, no, we're you know, our mission was to heal people with plants. So also a part of my aromatherapy journey that I discovered about 3 years in, you know, to getting my certification and all of that. I had been in retail, you know, as Lou shared, with Anthropology for almost 15 years, and discovered Sage, a Canadian-based company, incredible company, that sells wellness products. So, but a wide variety. So beyond diffusers and essential oil blends, skincare, you know, body care, everything, all natural. So it was a beautiful marriage of retail and purpose. You know,
but it was still very intense.
Products.
It was still
very intense. I oversaw the East Coast, and I was on an airplane every 5 weeks to Vancouver, away from my family. You know, it was definitely quite a bit of, as I said, travel and very high expectations, new to the US. So when a company is transitioning from having a really strong foundation in their home country, Canada, they had 50 stores in Canada at the time. And I was overseeing the first 4 in New York City and New Jersey. So everything was a case study. Everything was brand new. It honestly felt like I was starting my own business from scratch.
So I mean, this is the thing and you have also, just to put into perspective, you're such an ambitious person, you know, because I don't want people, when we're talking about this kind of spiritual awakening and looking after yourself and really understanding what looking after yourself means, you know, and it's so personal to every person, but you come from a very, you know, ambitious background. You've also got 2 properties out in Montauk, so you are really into real estate, and you manage and you run those. If we're ever allowed back, I would highly recommend your stunning properties. So ambition for you and being successful is an important part of this, but you've had to pivot. You've had to shift while you're in Norway. And this idea of, oh, I'm not obliged to all these things anymore. Oh, I actually have to sit with myself, and I have to be okay about myself.
No, exactly. No, I think what I've realized in reflection, and again, I wouldn't have had this moment had I not been given this gift. I see it as a gift of almost sending yourself on a personal retreat for as long as I've been here, right? And it's funny because you know, you see all these beautiful retreats that are getting planned, and yoga retreats to these exotic destinations. And obviously there's a draw to going on a retreat. and here I am, and here we all are. And I have to say,
Yes.
thinking about this moment in your life as you've given permission to go on personal retreat in your own home.
Yeah.
And I know it might sound silly, but there's so much growth work and personal just digging in to who you are, in order to really just start to peel back the layers, see how society and culture have conditioned us to be overly ambitious, be overly productive, be just highly efficient, to label ourselves in these ways that, frankly, we were not born to be overly efficient. That is not what human life is about. So it's these deep philosophies and these deep thoughts that I think, without this opportunity, and if you're not aware and listening for the calling, whether it's from the universe, if you believe in that, or just seeing the light on a very quiet, independent walk through a forest, not surrounded by anybody. If you don't embrace those gifts, we will continue to just pile on the layers of whatever society is throwing at us.
So do you feel lighter as a person now?
I do. I feel like I've joked with you about this when the whole COVID isolation started worldwide. I said, well, I've been preparing for this for the past 9 months, and I feel ready. And it hasn't actually jarred me, because I luckily had that stepping stone, which again is a rare opportunity, to say that you went from New York to where I am now, to where we all are now. But having that as a reference point has given me a tremendous amount of perspective. And I would have to say that it has almost catapulted me into a further just inward search of how can I come out on the other side a stronger person, and the person I want to be, how I've always wanted to be after this.
Yeah. So two things that I just want to pick up on that. Really, perspective is an interesting one. And I think that, going back to our conversations that we used to have, is kind of, we were in our, how old are we? Mid-20s? And
I turned 29 in London. Yes.
Yeah. So we were mid to late 20s. And
mid to late.
You were talking a lot about, the grass being greener and so many people having more opportunities perhaps than us. And we didn't realize that the power was kind of within us. And that actually we were saying, oh, well, if only they'd given me the opportunity, or if only that would happen to me. And actually what I'm hearing from you is the perspective of just take back the control and, appreciate what you have got, has really helped kind of soothe you.
It has provided a tremendous amount of relief, to come from a place of acceptance as opposed to a place of entitlement, or it should have been another way.
Yeah.
I think, at that time in our life, I hadn't really yet been exposed to the power of, planetary alignment and the universe, and things happening in your life that really are meant to serve you. And then it's when you get to a point and then look backward and connect all the dots that you realize, even the lowest points, when you thought you're at your lowest, that was necessary to get you closer to your dream. The whole time I've been on my way to my vision, and I still am, and we all are, as long as we can keep our sight on that, and not not get caught into the shoulds. And I wish, my brilliant coach spoke to us last week about something that really resonated with me, and it's related to gratitude. We've all I think been hearing about gratitude and the importance of gratitude and what that can do for your being and your energy. But she related it specifically to science, which was really interesting to me. And I think this also goes back to rituals. So when you practice gratitude, when you count your blessings, when you talk to yourself about the things that are supporting you daily, When you focus on future forward thinking, not in the long term, not in terms of after coronavirus, I'm going to do this, but more in the short term. What are you looking forward to in your own home? What are you grateful for within the next 3 hours? Those two things will increase your dopamine levels, your serotonin levels, which support your body, which raise your vibration and ward off cortisol, which is one thing that I will say, just do everything in your power to steer clear of that feeling. And I think as women, maybe I'm just biased, but I feel like it happens to us potentially more often than our opposite sex. When you catch yourself shortness of breath, breathing for 1 second in, 1 second out, that is a moment to check in and recognize, like, I'm in a state of fight or flight.
Yeah. So
And it's incredible that
I was just going to ask Sarah about the kind of that cortisol, because I think you've had quite an intense relationship with that cortisol over your life. And I suppose why I wanted to kind of come in here is to understand, you're saying, we've talked about the kind of the things that you really did have done and are doing to help yourself, but what would, you've had a lot of challenges with your own anxiety, but when you are in a bad place, what does your kind of emotions feel like? What does your day-to-day feel like? What are the alarm bells for you that you maybe need to reconnect with yourself? Because I think one of the things I see with a lot of clients and a lot of people, again, especially women, is they just keep going and they keep going and they keep going and they keep going, and they wonder why they then suddenly have a panic attack, or they break down, or it all gets too much. What for you have you learned, and this is individual to you but might help other people, have been the kind of the warning signals, or you're maybe not connecting with yourself, or you're going down a slippery slope?
Well, again, I would say, the Enneagram has been incredible for me, because
I don't know if everyone will know what the Enneagram is. You might have to.
Well, yeah, no, I won't, go too far down a rabbit hole there. But what I will say is, when I started my Enneagram discovery process, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, you have a dominant energy, and there are behaviors that manifest when you're at your best. Yeah. And there are also behaviors that manifest when you're in stress, when your cortisol increases. And for me, and I mentioned it just a bit earlier as well, in our conversation around when I got to Norway, I withdrew. I felt myself going to a very sensitive, reflective, but not in a good way, like reflective in a dark way, almost existential. Yeah. My thoughts get a little existential, and what is it all about? Why am I here? Which again can be productive or unproductive. So again, one thing I love about the Enneagram, and I would encourage everybody to do your own research, and so you can Google it. There's tons of amazing.
It's like a personality kind of, you can understand what your makeup is when it comes
your core,
to
and it's related
from a child. It's amazing. I love it. It's great.
Yeah, no, and that's what I love about it, because it your energy flows based on your core wounds as a child, your core nature. So it's less about your outward behavioral personalities, which again, I have come to learn and truly believe that that's just layers of society and expectations getting put all over us our whole lives. And I feel like now my almost mission in my own personal life is to strip back the layers, and find out really what's there, what was there at birth. And at birth, I didn't come out as a little anxious baby, that developed over time. And no, and I have to say that it's going inward and recognizing when your heart's beating fast, when you're, we all know the feeling in our stomach, when your stomach balls up. As I said, when you're getting in touch with your breath, that could not be more important. And that is very different from meditation. That takes 10 seconds, just 10 seconds in your day where you are counting in and counting out, and you will feel your body shift and your shoulders relax and your head clear. And I think also the personal choice that you gave yourself, just that 10 seconds in your day, shifts your mindset out of obligation and service all the time, like putting yourself second to, I'm going to stop right now. This is what I need. I'm putting my oxygen mask on first.
That's a great line. Yeah, that is a great line.
And I think, I think for those of us who have children on this call, that probably feels very, very familiar. One of the biggest shifts going into motherhood is you are responsible for a helpless human being. And I would also say, to answer your question, what are the alarm bells? I had some very distinct feelings, very early postpartum that felt very different, that felt like, okay, this is a lower side of myself. And that feeling is a memorable one. So even today, 5 years later, knowing when that comes back and then catching yourself.
Yeah. And I think that what you're saying about being on the lower and the kind of higher side of us is I love it, because I've definitely noticed the last 3 weeks, I feel like I've gone through all the different lower parts of me. I've gone into like a bit more rebellious. I've gone into kind of, like you say, hiding away. I've gone into, eating too many crisps, having too many glasses of wine. And what's interesting in the last few weeks, and in the last few days, I should say, as things have settled down for me, and I've got back into my exercise, got back into my meditation, got back into my sleep, really got back into my work as a coach, because we're all human, is that I can feel that higher side starting to resonate, and I know what I feel like when I'm feeling successful. So I suppose to people watching, we all know those two sides, don't we? And this is an opportunity for us to really call to that higher side and really follow that. What would you say to people, because obviously your job now as a wellness coach, if people are feeling like really stuck and frozen, what for you helps the most? Like, what gets you out of it? Is it time away from the family? Is it baking? Is it, what do you find?
Well, it's funny. Yeah, no, that's a really great question. And it's funny because, when I got here, I was missing that sense of community in New York.
Yeah.
However, then I withdrew and I was like, okay, I was feeling this dichotomy. And again, the dualistic nature that I know is in me. But I needed independence, but then I also craved community. So I would say, for myself personally, I've noticed that when I'm in a state of anxiety and I feel my cortisol rising, what gets me out of stress are independent auditory activities. So 2 of them that I can share are podcasts. I have a plethora of podcasts on deck. Whenever I feel isolated, there, a variety of 20-minute long, 60-minute, I listen to podcasts and I listen to books on Audible. Hearing someone else's voice, I don't need the physical person there to feel a sense of community. I feel that support right then and there. And it's, I don't need to be surrounded by a group of people. I just want that human voice, which gives me that connection while I'm working through something that I know I need to work through independently. And then the second auditory activity is music. So specifically during this period, during the COVID isolation, what has started is I have been going back into to the depths of my nostalgic existence. High school was, end of middle school and high school was a really happy time for me. And I've always been really into music. So I've made some playlists that just feel like a warm blanket. I haven't listened to these songs in 20 years. I almost forgot about them. And I'm shocked that I did, because they've been bringing so much joy into my life. Mm-hmm. Just having that nostalgic music on in the background really releases my anxiety.
And you don't have much, you don't have a television. You've got obviously a Wi-Fi connection and a computer, but TV isn't something you turn on, is it?
It is not. No. And actually it's funny, when I moved to the UK from California, we never purchased a TV. And so my journey with no TV started around 10 years ago. I will say, you know, in Norway, we have purchased a DVD player for the children to occasionally watch a film, but no, there is no TV here. We are in a cabin with limited Wi-Fi. So Netflix, not here. Amazon, not here. You know, you go to the shop. Even when you pick up the phone to call a store to see if they're open, they usually don't answer. You need to go down there in person.
It is amazing. So. It is amazing. So what I really, because obviously your work as a wellness coach, you have 3 areas that you you work in. So you've the Enneagram that you talked about, aromatherapy, but also birth chart reading. And I had mine done recently and it was incredible. So I would highly recommend it. But tell us, I'd be quite interested to know kind of on a broader scale. I don't know if you can share what's happening astrologically kind of wise, and maybe a little bit about what is a birth chart.
So birth charts, obviously everybody had a birth. So nobody is exempt from having a birth chart, which is incredible. Your birth chart is a unique snapshot of the sky and planetary activity and energy at the exact moment that you took your first breath. So one of the most interesting things I think to do, and there's actually many ways that you can search your own birth chart. You need your birth date, obviously, your birth time exact, and then your birthplace. Pulling up your birth chart and your partner's birth chart, or potentially yours and your child's, it is incredible how different the images are, and how, you know, where the planets were and what houses they were in at the time you were born. So just basic, we all, you know, most of us probably all know our sun sign. Your sun sign is actually limited though to the month roughly that you were born. So it covers roughly, you know, 29, 30, 31 days. However, your moon sign, the moon signs shift every 2 days. So that's digging a bit deeper into who you are. Your rising sign, the rising sign in the sky, the constellation shifts every 2 hours. So this is why your birth time is the most important element of your chart. Your rising sign is essentially the mask you present to the world. So it in fact is much more who you are than your sun sign. It's the most unique element of your chart. And then you throw in your karmic path. Where was the north node? Where was the south node? What houses were they in? Each house represents a different area of your life. So that can tell you kind of maybe about your past karma, what was happening in your past life, lessons that you're meant to learn on this life. Based on your...
That lesson, I just have to jump in there. The lessons what I meant to be learning in my life when you did mine was, there was something it was quite incredible. I mean, obviously, you know, it was quite incredible what came up, and I was like, wow, that really feels so true. But there was also something quite affirming, because I think one of the things that when you've maybe got a dream out there, or you've got ambition, or you're confused perhaps about what your life has been, to understand and to see it and to have that affirmation of actually, it just gives, I don't know, it gave me a lot of clarity and actually made me feel quite, you know, relaxed and secure.
Yeah, no, clarity, feelings of reinforcement. You know, I would say I am aligned, you know, with those feelings as well. When I had my chart read for the first time 4 years ago, I felt seen. I felt like my life was being witnessed, and this person knew nothing about me at all. And it was just really incredible what they were able to pull out from that moment in my life, moment of my birth. And it's something that throughout my journey, I feel more than anything has actually helped me just strip everything away. And like, okay, this is me in my most pure state. And what you do with the information as well. I mean, it's again, not like reading a daily horoscope or a monthly horoscope where you're kind of thinking, oh, that could apply, or what, you know, again, it's very much, it's a big picture snapshot of the universe, and essentially what it potentially could have in store for you which is really, really inspiring to see. And if I could support the world in any way, it would be to expose as many people as possible to just the experience of having your chart read and seeing it.
Amazing. So is there anything in this like the stars right now that is that something that you know, can you share? Or
well, one thing that's very interesting about what is happening now and what was happening when we shifted into 2020, the new decade. So for the first time in 30 years, Saturn and Pluto are conjunct in the sign of Capricorn, and they've been there together. Actually, when we started the year, there was also a little planetary war happening with Mars and Jupiter. So Jupiter is the planet of expansion and abundance. However, when it is surrounded by Mars, the aggressor, Saturn, restriction, discipline, boundaries, Jupiter's power is currently minimized heavily. So Jupiter is now out of Capricorn, but very, very slightly. And as I said, Saturn and Pluto. So Pluto kind of represents subconscious, like death, the underworld. With Saturn, it's the epitome of fear and restriction and limitations, which I would say, if we all were kind of to describe the low point of how we're feeling, we all probably feel pretty restricted right now and uncertain. And Capricorn specifically has a connection to government and, again, like society and being dutiful and all of those roles that are played. And if I listened to a very interesting podcast, it's called the Quiet Mind Astrology Podcast. And he did a whole analysis of the stars and all of the economic downturns that have taken place since 1785. And what every single one had in common was what I'm sharing. So Saturn was in Capricorn, which is incredible. It's mind-blowing.
And I think the thing I'm always mind-blown about is your capacity to just remember these facts. When we worked together, I used to try so hard to like keep up with the like the figures, the business figures. I couldn't even get close. The amount of your brain capacity for holding this kind of information is always been incredible. So I just love the knowledge that you're always able to infuse and bring. And I have to say, it's just been an incredible honor to see you blossom over the last few months in a time that was, you know, like you say, incredibly restrictive. So, and that's again, you know, a message that I really want to share with you all here is that this is an opportunity for us to shine. And that doesn't mean, like you say, you have to go and achieve loads of things, but I think it's about becoming okay with the uncertainty. Like your visa's up soon, you don't know if you're going to be staying, and you know that I feel like that would have freaked you out a year ago, and now you're just having to surrender to it a lot more and just be like, we'll figure it out.
I think, you know, you said it perfectly just now. It's being in a place of surrender. And if there's one thing that I think also this virus can teach us is, no matter how much we plan, the world has a bigger plan. And it actually isn't all negative. I mean, this is a reset button for humanity. We are all seeing the benefits on the environment right now. And this also independently is an opportunity for each of us to transform and make a choice and an intention to come out stronger on the other side. And yes, no, a year ago, definitely 10 years ago, I would have been in a tizzy. I would have been
you're
helpless.
You need a plan for everything. You needed a plan A, B, C, D, and E.
Mm-hmm.
So just to see you being so present, and I think that's the thing. If you're somebody that at the moment freaks out about not having a plan and not knowing the answer, then I mean this in the most positive way. If you can do it, honestly, I feel like you can be such an inspiration for others and helping them to feel that sense of sense of peace and calm. It's just wonderful.
No, it's taken, it's, you know, it's a life's work.
Yeah.
And it takes practice. And again, we all, again, can start those habits now
Yeah.
and continue them.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you for this. It's always, I mean, I love you dearly, and it's always wonderful to talk. You are my soul sister, and I really just, you know, I think that your message today of how we can just strip things back, keep it simple, find your practice, find your rituals, find the things that help you to feel like you have that oxygen mask on. That was a great line. I love that. So is there anything else you'd like to share with people before we go?
I mean, something just popped into my head, and I just feel like it's the universe telling me to say this. So I would reconnect with your inner child. That is the advice I would leave you with. Think about your happiest childhood memories. Think about those nostalgic moments. I know I shared, you know, music is one of mine.
Yeah.
Going back as far as you possibly can as you reflect into your most pure state, that will give you the most information about what is most important to you, what you need to keep in your life and discard in your life. And as we move forward into this, I would just say, connect with your inner child and potentially your children if you have them too, because I think that's a great place to access. We are all born with a direct line to spirit, and you know, our young children, if you have that in your life, they are still very close to that. Yeah. So there's some incredible wisdom that you can gain from them, from your dreams. You know, a lot of stuff comes back in your dreams too. So just really be,
I think I dream
open and listen.
I think I dream about school too much. I still dream about it way too much. We've had somebody ask, and do ask if anyone's got any questions. We will be wrapping up shortly. Can Sarah recommend anywhere to research the Enneagram?
So what I will say, just like quick infusion of Enneagram in your life, if you are on Instagram, I can share my two favorite handles that I follow are Enneagram and Coffee is number one, and then
Enneagram. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yes, exactly. So it's spelled Ennea, Enneagram. Mm-hmm. So Enneagram and Coffee is Instagram handle number one, and then 9 types co. So the word 9 types CO. Those are my favorite, and you know, these women are great, just resources, and this is, you know, they teach and train and kind of share Enneagram knowledge. That's their purpose. That's what they do. But they put together just great graphics of each type and just real life scenarios of this is typical kind of behavior of a 1-wing 2, 1 going to 7. And again, I'm probably speaking gibberish for the beginners. But also YouTube is a great resource as well. So just typing in Enneagram types, and you'll get some great and I can speakers.
Yeah, I was just thinking I can put in the Style and Success Club where you can go and have your Enneagram. You can do the questionnaire. So
yes, no, that's my third suggestion is take the test. So the test, they say that it's, you know, only 67% accurate. Again, it's a personal journey. So the test is a very important like prerequisite, I think, and can serve as a foundation. So the Enneagram Institute, if you Google that is, I find, the most comprehensive test. And that will at least point you in a direction of your most likely types 1 through 4. And again, your dominant type, you're going to have a wing. So if you're a 1, your wing will either be a 2 or 9. So it's always adjacent. And then my advice is always just try it on for a week, read a bit about that type and try it on. Know where that type goes in stress, know where they go at best, and really go inward and really ask yourself, like, is this me? And when you're anxious on Tuesday, are you manifesting those behaviors of a certain type in stress or the type that you tested as? So try it on and just be very aware.
App, the app that we use.
Oh yes.
App. That's
Yes,
good.
the Enneagram app. It's a one-stop shop. Yeah,
I can see it.
Yeah, but definitely take the test. Yep, that's it.
Yeah,
take the test.
Right.
Just to at least get a start.
Yeah. And anyone that works with me that is being coached, I have an idea in my mind of what you are. So we use it. But you're the expert. It's definitely not. It's something I have as a support, but because it's fascinating. I've got another question here, Sarah. Can you share ideas for a morning ritual? I feel this is such a fantastic way to gain that control and time to reflect. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I agree. Couldn't agree more. As I said, I would focus on it being realistic. I would keep it to 3 things and ensure that it can be done within the first hour of your day. Obviously, I shared some ideas of what I do. In addition, I think if, like, for example, if audio is important to you, potentially it's listening to a song every morning to get you going. If, again, aromatherapy is important to you, it's maybe not related to your diffuser, but it's related to applying essential oils to a specific pulse point in your body. It could be something as simple as, if you're a mom, feeding yourself before anybody else. So making the conscious choice that I am going to put food in my mouth before I make peanut butter and jelly or cereal or oatmeal for anybody else in the house. And just, again, the choice and the practice. I mean, it prevents you from being hangry also, but you're, it's just, again, that habit. Does everyone know what hangry means?
Yeah.
Hungry and angry at the same time. Okay.
Yeah. I think also for me, grabbing pen to paper, and even if I literally how am I feeling today, making a little plan, like if like you say, like an intention or the 3 things I want to achieve. I think for me, I find I have got notebooks full of stuff, and I just find it very, very helpful.
Gratitude journal, yes, as well. You were the first person to talk to me, Lou, about the 5 wins of the day. So that's actually a wonderful evening ritual that you can also work into your day. Not just limited to the morning, ladies, but yes, starting your day with writing.
It's so, for me, it was, I feel like I've talked about this a lot, but it was the gratitude, 3 things in the morning when I felt like there was nothing to be grateful. Well, I struggled a lot with it. It was really just great. And then the 5 wins, but sharing it with my partner at the end of the day, well, with Steve, my partner, my husband, at the end of the day, just to be like, what was your day about? And how was your day? And actually, it was amazing. You'd find out things that you never would have done before. And it was a real connecting. But what I've actually shifted to recently was that I heard that Oprah, because I've been doing this 21-day meditation app. Everyone in the Success Club knows because I've been sharing it, but with Oprah and Deepak Chopra, Chopra, I think is his surname. But she was talking about how she's got a gratitude journal that she has dated, so she can literally go back to like the 26th of April 1991, and she can see the 5 things that day that she was grateful for. And I was like, oh, that really got me excited. So I've just shifted to not just doing it verbally, but actually writing it down as well. So
no, that's such an amazing tool and relic to have, and something to reflect upon. I love that idea.
And how it can just trigger a memory that you probably would have let go.
Long live the diary. It's like, dear diary.
I know. Amazing, Sarah. Fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on here. Everyone check out the Self Recovery. Do you want to share the website?
Yeah, so it's as Lou just spoke, it's theselfrecovery.com, and you'll see a little bit more about my purpose, my method, how I hope to serve my clients. And this is kind of where I'm starting now. And I'm sure it will evolve, over my life. But yeah, I'm excited to share it. And I'm here. I'm here to support anyone who's looking to just get back to their true nature.
Amazing. Thank you so much. You are just a dream to have in my life, and I'm very appreciative of you. Thank you to all of you for coming as well. It is just wonderful to have you here. The numbers are growing every week. I feel bad, Facebook, it kept dropping out, so they didn't get it live, but maybe they should have registered. But we are going to be growing week by week, sharing more and more. This is going to be happening every week, so we cannot wait to see you all. 8:15 is the new time, and lots of love to you. Have a fantastic week. Stay strong, stay resilient, and stay connected to yourself. All right, lots of love. Thank you, Sara.
Yeah, thanks guys, so happy to be here. Good
Take
night.
care. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Good night.